Hello, I'm Halcyon, and this is the weekly Hug Nation broadcast. I realize that often it is later in the broadcast when I share the most important thing, so I want to start with that and tell you that I love you. I love you, and I so appreciate the ability to connect in these bizarre techno ways, connecting beyond space and time, recognizing our shared humanity, recognizing the fact that I may have never met you, and yet I feel connected. I feel that I can say with full authority, I love you. I recognize that you're doing the best you can, as am I. And we're all learning and growing. We all want safety. We all want security. We all want love. We all want connection. Somewhere along the line, our stories and our histories sometimes make us act in ways that make us feel like we're separate and different, but at the core, we are reflections. We are so alike. So thank you for joining me. Today, I want to talk about an apology to my ancestors. I am currently taking an online course, and this week's exercise assignment was ancestral work. And I have a very powerful connection to my grandfather on my mother's side, Grandpa Caleb. You may have seen me share videos of him. I talk about him pretty much throughout my TEDx talk. I have a Hugmobile that has his ashes mixed into the side of it. And I feel like so much of my life has been impacted by my grandfather that I feel like his energy is a huge influence in my day-to-day. So I had this feeling that I am dialed in with ancestry and ancestral energy. And so in this exercise, we were asked to speak aloud to our ancestors, to say, I am John Stinn. I am son of, and acknowledge our fathers and our fathers' fathers and our fathers' fathers' fathers and our mothers' mothers and our mothers' mothers' mothers and mothers' fathers, and really and speak aloud and say, what do you have to teach me? What do you want me to know? What can I learn from you? What do you need known? How can you help me? How can I help you? And open this connection to our ancestors. And something really interesting came up for me, which was that I realized that I did not have respect for my ancestors. That I had this feeling of like, what can I learn from my ancestors? You know, I have very minimal understanding of their lives, but I know about like very strict religious, and I just had this very naive concept of like simpler times, simpler people, closed-minded in terms of religious ideas. And I'm like, what could I learn from these people of the past? And I think it has to do with, some like growing up with old television and old movies and feeling like black and white world was a simpler world maybe, and people were simpler. I don't even really understand why I had this idea. But like the world is so complicated now. I have done all this inner work and I have the luxury of all these teachers and such. So none of my ancestors had access to these things. So I am in a more evolved state than them. What could I learn from them? And again, this was not a conscious thing. I realized this. And I also realized that I have no idea who these people were and what they had to go through, what they had to learn, what wisdom they acquired. I am just now in my parents' elder years, finally getting a real sense of the full dimensions of who they are and what they have learned and the complexities of their awareness and their just the brilliance in all these different ways that are so different than the way that I live. And so I'm like, wait a minute, these are people. And first of all, I don't know much about my ancestors. Beyond my grandparents, it's very few details that I know beyond that. So I don't have a sense of them. I just have this like people in the past. But the more I think about it, I'm like, these are people who had to survive. These are people who probably had so much wisdom about tenacity, about courage. These are people who left their homeland to go to a new country. These are people who survived the Holocaust, people who survived living in ghettos, people that survived the Dust Bowl, people that survived things that I can't even imagine. And so this embarrassing naivete that I had about the limited wisdom that you could acquire under those circumstances, I don't know. I'm embarrassed. And as I'm sharing this, I'm realizing, wow, like even the little things that I know about the ancestors that I do know. So I know I have all sorts of things that I know about my grandpa Caleb. And the relative that I know the next most about is his wife, Carol. And even the little things I know about her, she was amazing. She was so hardworking and so dedicated and an early feminist. She went to go see, she worked her way through college and got a degree. And when she went to go see a Katharine Hepburn movie and got all fired up, and when she came back to the dorms, it was after curfew, and she was so fired up, and she goes, the men do not have to come back at this curfew. Normally, the women were just expected to sneak back in if they went out. That was just understood. And she walked brazenly through the door as an act of defiance and faced the consequences of it. I'm like, how could I not see the wisdom of this path that a woman like her had to go through in the world that she had to live in? And I'm just feeling so I'm feeling like a tiny child who is cursing my parents for not letting me play with a hot stove or something. That's like so ignorant of the world and the history of the world and the history of my ancestors. And I guess I'm maybe becoming more open to what they can teach and what I can learn. And that seems to be a big part of this chapter of my life, is learning more and more of my limitations, learning more and more of the thoughts and the beliefs that have made me think that I was fully in control of my thoughts and choices, but really have been trapped by ideas or experiences or lack of experiences or traumas that just have really put me into patterns of thought that are robbing me from true liberation and true peace and true awareness. So in this moment, I say, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry to my ancestors. I am so grateful for all that you have endured in order to provide a life for me. I'm the product of countless generations of people struggling. And what untold wisdom must have been acquired through those years of all manner of things that I have no idea about. So I'm going to work on going inward more and listening more, remembering how little I know. So thank you for allowing me to share that. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Thank you for being you. I love you. Please go and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're also curious about other things that I've been up to, I am taking pre-orders for my new catalog photo book. It's called Protagonist. You can check it out at book.stin.net. And it'll be finished up any day now, and then some printing time and out to you as soon as possible. But get a pre-order in and I can get it signed for you before it goes out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I think you might like one of these videos. Or my book.